The quiet one. The transport ship landed on Station Helios 7 with a loud hiss. The doors opened and Una Park stepped out with a small bag on her shoulder. She was 19 years old. She was small. She was human. And she was very, very quiet. Around her, the station was huge. Metal walls stretched up so high she could not see the ceiling. Lights blinked everywhere. Aliens of all kinds walked past her. Some were tall with hard shells that looked like glass. Others were covered in silver fur and moved fast like cats. A few were massive creatures with 4 arms and skin like stone. Una had read about all of them. The glass ones were called Velothi. The furry ones were Renari. The big ones were Goroth. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans had only joined them 20 years ago. She walked to the registration desk. A Velothi officer looked down at her. His eyes were like black marbles. He made a clicking sound with his mouth. "Human," he said. It was not a greeting. It was just a fact. Like saying the sky was blue. "Yes," Una said softly. "Cadet Una Park from Earth." The officer checked his screen. "You are the youngest human accepted to the academy. Your file says you come from Seoul, underground bunkers. War survivor." Una said nothing. She did not like talking about the war. She did not like talking about many things. The officer handed her a room card. "Building 4. Room 7. Classes start tomorrow." She took the card and walked away without another word. Her room was small. A bed, a desk, a window that showed the stars outside. Una sat on the bed and pulled out a notebook from her bag. It was old and worn. She had carried it since she was 12 years old. Back then, she had lived in the dark tunnels under Seoul. The war had destroyed everything above ground. Food was hard to find. Water was harder. People died every day. Una learned very quickly that talking too much got you in trouble. Asking questions got you hurt. But watching and listening kept you alive. So she watched. She listened. She wrote everything down. Now she was far from Earth, far from the tunnels. But she still had her notebook. And she would still watch and listen. The next morning, Una walked into her first class. Commander Torvax stood at the front. He was a Goroth, 8 feet tall, 4 arms, a face that looked like it was carved from gray rock. He taught advanced combat theory. The room was full of cadets. Una counted 32. Only 3 were human. The rest were aliens who had trained for combat since they were children. Una sat in the back row. A Renari cadet sat nearby. His fur was dark silver and his eyes were yellow. He looked at Una and laughed quietly. "A human," he said to his friends. "Look how small she is. I could break her with one hand." His name was Dren. Una learned this by listening. She also learned that his family had been admirals for 6 generations. He was proud. He was fast. He was cruel. Commander Torvax began speaking. His voice was deep like thunder. Combat is not about strength. It is about understanding your enemy. Watch them. Learn them. Find their weakness. Then destroy them. Some cadets raised their hands. They asked questions. They gave answers. They tried to impress the commander. Una stayed silent. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Una went to every class. She sat in the back. She never raised her hand. When teachers called on her, she gave short answers in her soft voice. The other cadets started to ignore her. The Velothi clicked their mouths in annoyance whenever she spoke. The Renari made jokes about humans behind her back. The Goroth simply looked through her like she was not there. Dren was the worst. One day in the training hall, he walked up to her. "The silent human," he said loudly so everyone could hear. "Tell me, do your people even have a language?" Or do you just make faces at each other? Some cadets laughed. Yuna looked at Dren. She noticed that he always stood with his weight on his right leg. His left knee was slightly bent. An old injury, perhaps. He probably did not even know he did it. We have many languages, she said quietly. I speak 3. Dren laughed. And yet you say nothing in class. Maybe you have nothing worth saying. Yuna did not argue. She simply nodded and walked away. That night, she wrote in her notebook, Dren, favors right side. Left knee weak. Fast but predictable. Always attacks first. Never waits. She wrote many things in her notebook. She wrote about the Velothi. Their glass shells were strong but had gaps at the joints. They could see heat but not movement in complete darkness. They were proud and never asked for help, even when they needed it. She wrote about the Gorath. They were powerful but slow to turn. They moved their shoulders before they punched. All 4 arms worked together, so if you stopped one, you stopped all of them. She wrote about the Renari. They were fast and smart but overconfident. They believed they were the best at everything. This made them careless. She wrote about the teachers too. Commander Torvax was a great warrior, but his lessons had gaps. He taught tactics that worked in simulations, but would fail in real combat. He had not fought a real battle in 30 years. Every night, Yuna filled pages with her observations. Not complaints. Not opinions. Just facts. Things she saw. Things she heard. Things that might keep her alive someday. 6 months passed. The other cadets improved. They learned to fight. They learned to shoot. They learned to fly ships. Yuna learned too. But she learned different things. She learned that the Academy's security was weak on the east side of the station. She learned that the medical bay kept emergency supplies in an unlocked cabinet. She learned that the maintenance tunnels could take you anywhere if you knew the way. She learned how every species moved, how they thought, how they made mistakes. One day, a human cadet named Borum sat next to her in the food hall. He was tall and thin with kind eyes. He worked in engineering. You are always alone, he said. Always watching. Always writing in that book. What are you writing? Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, Survival instructions. Borum laughed. He thought she was joking, thought she was not joking. 2 weeks later, the Academy received a distress signal from a distant relay station. 12 cadets were selected for a training mission. Commander Torvax said it was just observation. No danger. Yuna was chosen to handle communications equipment. An afterthought. A small job for the quiet human. She packed her bag. She brought her notebook. She had a feeling she would need it. The station goes dark. The military transport flew through space for 6 hours before reaching Relay Station Keth. Yuna sat in the corner of the ship, watching the other cadets. There were 12 of them in total. Lieutenant Instructor Voss was in charge. He was a Gorath, even bigger than Commander Torvax. His skin was dark gray and covered with old scars. He had fought in real battles. He was not like the teachers at the Academy. Dren sat near the front, talking loudly with 2 other Renari cadets. He was excited. This was his first real mission, even if it was just observation. Borum sat across from Yuna. He was checking his engineering tools. Next to him was Hana, a human woman with short black hair. She was a medical trainee. She smiled at Yuna. First mission, Hana said. Are you nervous? Yuna shook her head. No, you never seem nervous about anything, Hana said. How do you stay so calm? Yuna thought about this question. She thought about the tunnels under Seoul, the darkness, the hunger, the sounds of people crying in the night. After living through that, a simple observation mission did not seem scary. Practice, she said finally. The transport landed in the docking bay of Relay Station Cath. The doors opened, and Lieutenant Voss walked out first. The cadets followed. Una stopped at the door. Something felt wrong. The air smelled strange, like metal and something else. Something bad. "Move, human," a Velothi cadet said behind her. "You are blocking the way." Una moved, but she kept her hand near her bag. Near her notebook. The station was quiet. Too quiet. The lights flickered overhead. Some of them were broken. Glass covered the floor. "Where's everyone?" Dren asked. His voice echoed in the empty hallway. Lieutenant Voss raised his hand. Everyone stopped. He pointed to a doorway ahead. It was covered with dark marks. "Burn marks." "Stay behind me," Voss said. He pulled out his weapon and walked forward slowly. They found the first body in the control room. It was a Velothi. Or it had been. Now it was just pieces. The glass shell was cracked open. The soft insides were gone. Blood covered the walls. Hannah made a small sound. Borum put his hand on her shoulder. Una looked at the body carefully. She looked at the marks on the walls. Long scratches. 5 lines together. Like claws. "Raythic," Lieutenant Voss said. His voice was hard. "These marks are from Raythic claws." Dren's yellow eyes went wide. "Raythic? But they are 3 systems away. The military pushed them back last year." "Clearly not all of them," Voss said. "They moved deeper into the station. They found more bodies. 47 in total. Every person on the station was dead. The Raythic had killed them all. Una had read about the Raythic at the academy. They were hunters, predators. They had no eyes but could feel heat and vibrations. They had claws that could cut through metal. They were fast and smart, and very, very deadly." She wrote quickly in her notebook. "Raythic present. Unknown number. Station crew eliminated. Hunting patterns suggest organized attack." "What are you doing?" Dren asked. He was standing behind her, looking at her notebook. "Writing," Una said. "Writing what?" "We need to focus on getting out of here, not taking notes." Una closed her notebook. "These notes might help us get out." Dren laughed. But his laugh was nervous now. Not cruel like before. Lieutenant Voss led them to the main communication room. The equipment was destroyed. Screens were smashed. Wires hung from the ceiling like dead snakes. "I can try to fix it," Borum said. He started looking at the broken machines. "Do it fast," Voss said. "We need to contact the academy. Tell them what happened here." That was when the lights went out. The darkness was complete. Una could not see her hand in front of her face. Around her, she heard the other cadets breathing fast. Someone was cursing in the Renari language. Then she heard something else, clicking, skittering, claws on metal. The Raythic had not left. They had been waiting. "Nobody move," Lieutenant Voss commanded. His voice was calm but tight. "They hunt by heat and vibration. If we stay still," he never finished his sentence. Something hit him from the side. Una heard the impact. She heard Voss shout. She heard his weapon fire once, twice, 3 times. Blue light flashed in the darkness. She saw shapes. Nightmares with too many legs and mouths full of teeth. Then Voss screamed. And then he was silent. More screams. More weapon fire. Cadets were running in all directions. The Raythic were everywhere. Una did not run. She dropped to the ground and crawled. She had learned long ago that running made noise. Running made vibrations. Running got you killed. She found a wall. She followed it with her hands. She found an opening. A maintenance shaft. Small. Too small for the big aliens. Perfect for a small human. She climbed in. Una. Someone was calling her name. Borum. His voice was close. "Here," she whispered. "In the shaft." "Bring the others," quietly. Moram crawled toward her voice. Hannah was with him. Behind them came Dren and a few other cadets. They squeezed into the shaft one by one. When they were all inside, Una counted them. 7 out of 12. Lieutenant Voss and 4 cadets were dead. Dren was shaking. His silver fur was wet with blood. "Not his blood. What do we do?" he asked. His voice was high and scared. "What do we do?" Everyone looked at each other in the darkness. No one had an answer. Then Hannah turned on a small light from her medical kit. The beam was weak, but enough to see faces. "Una," Hannah said, "you have been watching everything since we arrived. You have been writing in your notebook. Do you know anything that can help us?" Una was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled out her notebook and opened it. "Yes," she said. "I think I do." She began to read. And for the first time, the other cadets listened. 27 hours the maintenance shaft was cold and dark. 7 cadets sat in a tight line, barely able to move. Outside, they could hear the Wraithic moving through the station, claws clicking on metal. Strange sounds coming from their throats. Una held her notebook open. Hannah's small light was pointed at the pages. The Wraithic hunt using heat and vibration. Una read quietly. "They cannot see like we do. They feel the world around them." "We know this," Dren said. His voice was impatient. "Everyone knows this." "Let her finish," Borum said. Una continued. "If we can hide our heat and move without vibration, they will have trouble finding us. The station has a coolant system in the lower decks. The thermal gel from that system can reduce our body heat to almost nothing." A Velothi cadet named Chris leaned forward. Her glass shell clicked against the shaft wall. "That might work for the heat. But what about vibration? We cannot fly. We must walk." Una nodded. "The station has a heartbeat. Machines running. Air systems pumping. If we match our footsteps to the station's rhythm, our vibrations will blend with the background noise." "That sounds very hard," said Then. He was a young Goroth, the smallest of his kind, and only 7 feet tall. "How do we know the right rhythm?" Una tapped her ear. "Listen." Everyone went silent. At first, they heard nothing. Then, slowly, they noticed it. A low hum. A pulse. The station was alive with small sounds. Air moving through vents. Power flowing through cables. A steady beat like a slow drum. "I hear it," Hannah whispered. "Good," Una said. "Step on the beat. Slow and steady. Never rush." Dren shook his head. "This is insane. We should find weapons and fight our way to the shuttle bay." "How many Wraithic did you count?" Una asked. Dren opened his mouth. Then he closed it. He had not counted. "I counted at least 30, Una said. "Probably more. Their alpha is with them. The big one with scars on its face. We have 7 people and 2 small weapons. We cannot win a fight. Then what do you suggest?" Dren asked. But his voice was different now. Less angry. More curious. Una looked at each of them. "We survive. We move through the lower decks. We get to the shuttle bay. We leave this station. And we do it my way." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Chris nodded. Then nodded. One by one, they all agreed. Even Dren. "Fine," he said. "We follow the quiet human." They crawled through the maintenance shaft for an hour before finding a way down to the lower decks. The engineering section was cold and dark, but the Wraithic had not come this far yet. Una found the coolant storage. Large tanks of blue gel sat in rows. The gel was used to cool the station's engines. It was cold enough to freeze skin on contact. "We need it first," Borum said. He found some water containers and mixed the gel until it was safe to touch. Still very cold, but not deadly. They covered themselves with the gel. It felt like ice on skin. The alien cadets shivered. The humans shivered more. "This is terrible," Hana said through chattering teeth. "Terrible but necessary," Yuna replied. They began to move. Yuna went first. She stepped slowly, matching her footsteps to the station's pulse. Behind her, the others followed in a single line. Borum was second, then Hana, then Dren, then the others. They passed through dark hallways. They climbed through broken sections. They moved like ghosts, silent and cold. Sometimes they heard the Wraithic nearby, clicking sounds in the darkness, scratching on walls. Once, a Wraithic walked right past them. Yuna could smell it. Rotten meat and something chemical. She held her breath. The creature stopped. Its eyeless head turned toward them. No one moved. After a long moment, the Wraithic continued walking. It had not felt them. The cold gel had hidden their heat. Their careful steps had hidden their vibrations. When it was gone, Dren let out a breath he had been holding for too long. "Your notebook," he whispered to Yuna. "What else is in there?" Yuna showed him as they moved. She had pages on Wraithic weaknesses. Their armor had a gap at the third section of their chest. A blade at the right angle could kill them quickly. Their throats made the sounds they used to communicate. If you damaged their throat, they could not call for help. "How do you know all this?" Dren asked. "I read reports," Yuna said. "Military documents. Science studies. Everything I could find. But the Academy does not teach this. Not in detail like this." "No," Yuna agreed. "The Academy teaches you how to fight in good conditions. I wanted to learn how to fight in bad conditions." Dren was quiet for a while. Then he said, "I am sorry." Yuna looked at him. "For what?" "For what I said before? About humans. About you. I thought you were weak because you were quiet. I was wrong." Yuna almost smiled. Almost. Quiet is not weak. Quiet is just quiet. They kept moving. Hours passed. The gel on their skin dried, and they had to apply more. They found food and water in an abandoned break room. They rested for 30 minutes before continuing. Yuna kept counting her head. They had been on the station for 12 hours. Then 18. Then 20-4. By the 27th hour, they were close to the shuttle bay. They could see the doors at the end of a long corridor, but the Wraithic were there. 2. Yuna counted them through a small window. 32 Wraithic, including the Alpha. They were gathered around the shuttle bay entrance like guards. They knew the survivors would try to escape. "We cannot go through them," Chris said. Her voice was tired. "There are too many." Yuna looked at the corridor. She looked at the walls. She looked at the ceiling. She saw the vents, the airlocks, the manual controls. An idea formed in her mind. A terrible, dangerous idea. She opened her notebook and wrote something on the last page. "I have a plan," she said. "But you are not going to like it." The others gathered around her. Yuna explained. By the time she finished, everyone was staring at her with wide eyes. Dren's mouth was open. "That is the craziest thing I've ever heard," he said. "Yes," Yuna agreed. "But it will work." No one argued. They had followed her this far. They would follow her to the end. The last stand. Yuna explained the plan 3 times to make sure everyone understood. It was simple but dangerous. One mistake would kill them all. The station had manual emergency controls on each section. These controls could open the outer doors and release all the air into space. This was meant for fires or toxic leaks. But it could also be used to kill anything in that section. The corridor between them and the shuttle bay had 2 large airlocks. If they opened both at the same time, All the air would rush out. The Wraithic would die in the vacuum of space, but so would the cadets if they were caught in it. Humans can survive in vacuum for about 90 seconds, Una said. If we prepare correctly, we can cross the corridor before our bodies fail. Humans maybe, Chris said. What about us? Una looked at her notebook. Velothi can survive longer. Your shell protects you. Gorath are strong enough to handle the pressure change. Renari are the most at risk, but if you move fast, you will make it. Dren's ears went flat against his head. If we move fast, and if everything goes perfectly. Yes, Una said. That is correct. No one spoke for a moment. Then Then stood up. The young Goreth's stone-like face was serious. I will help open the airlocks, he said. Tell me what to do. Borum raised his hand. I can handle the controls. I know this station's systems. One by one, they all agreed to the plan. Even Dren, who was clearly terrified. They prepared carefully. Una made them practice the steps. Breathe out completely before the doors open. Keep your eyes closed. The vacuum will try to pull the air from your lungs and the fluid from your eyes. Do not fight it. Just move. She gave them each a job. Borum would control the airlock systems from a nearby panel. Then and Chris would guard him. Dren would run first because he was the fastest. He would reach the shuttle and start the engines. Hannah would help anyone who fell behind. Una would go last. Why last? Hannah asked. Someone needs to make sure everyone makes it. Una said. Hannah looked at her for a long moment. That is not the only reason, is it? Una did not answer. She had written something on the last page of her notebook. Page 52. A final instruction that she had not shared with the others. If all else fails, the human body can serve as a distraction. 37 degrees of heat. A beating heart creating vibrations. One life traded for many is an acceptable exchange. She hoped it would not come to that. But she was ready if it did. They moved to their positions. The corridor stretched before them, long and straight. At the far end, behind the thick doors, the Wraithic waited. Una could hear them clicking and scratching. Everyone ready? Borum asked. His hands were on the control panel. 6 voices said yes. Borum counted down. 3, 2, 1. He pressed the buttons. The airlocks on both ends of the corridor opened at the same time. The sound was incredible, like a giant taking a breath. All the air rushed out into space. Warning lights flashed red. Alarms screamed silently because there was no air to carry the sound. The Wraithic were caught completely off guard. Most of them were pulled toward the openings. Their bodies twisted and broke in the sudden change of pressure. Some exploded as the air inside them expanded. The corridor became a storm of bodies and debris. Go. Una screamed, but no sound came out. She pushed Dren forward. Dren ran. His legs moved faster than Una had ever seen. He crossed the corridor in seconds, jumping over dead Wraithic, sliding under floating debris. Hannah went next. Then Chris. Then Then. Borum sealed his panel and followed. Una was last on. She started running. The vacuum pulled at her skin. Her chest hurt from the lack of air. She kept her eyes closed like she had told the others, but she could feel the bodies around her. Dead Wraithic floating in the airless corridor. Then something grabbed her leg. She fell hard. Her hands hit the metal floor. She opened her eyes and saw it. The Alpha Wraithic. The big one with the scarred face. It had survived. Its claws were dug into her ankle. Una tried to kick free. The Alpha pulled her back. Its mouth opened, rows of teeth shining in the red emergency lights. 20 seconds of exposure. Una reached for her belt. She had a small knife. Not much of a weapon. But she remembered what she had written. 3rd thoracic segment. Gap in the armor. She stabbed at the Alpha's chest. The knife scraped against hard shell. Wrong angle. She tried again. 25 seconds. The Alpha's other claw came up, ready to tear her apart. Then something hit the Alpha from the side. Dren. He had come back. He moved through the vacuum like he was born in it, fast and precise. His own knife found the gap that Yuna had missed. He drove it deep into the Alpha's chest. The Alpha released Yuna. It thrashed wildly, trying to reach Dren, but the damage was done. Fluid leaked from the wound. The light in its body faded. Dren grabbed Yuna and pulled her forward. Den was there too, his massive arms sweeping aside two more Wraithic that had survived. Chris used her sharp shell edges to cut down another. 30 seconds. They burst through the shuttle bay doors. Borum had them closed immediately. Air rushed back in. Everyone collapsed on the floor, gasping and coughing. Hannah was already moving, checking everyone for injuries. Yuna's ankle was bleeding, but not broken. Dren had cuts on his arms. Everyone else was bruised but alive. The shuttle. Yuna wheezed. We need to leave. Now. Borum ran to the cockpit. The engines were already warm from the station's power. He started the launch sequence. Through the shuttle window, Yuna could see movement. More Wraithic were coming. They had heard the alarms. They knew their prey was escaping. Come on, Borum muttered. The shuttle lifted off the ground just as the first Wraithic reached the bay doors. Claws scraped against the metal hull. A terrible screaming sound echoed through the ship. Then they were free. The shuttle shot out of the station and into open space. Behind them, Station Keth grew smaller and smaller until it was just a dot among the stars. Yuna sat on the floor, her back against the wall. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. Dren sat down next to her. His silver fur was matted with blood and coolant gel. He looked terrible, but he was smiling. You came back for me, Yuna said. You would have done the same, Dren replied. Yuna thought about page 52, about being a distraction, about trading one life for many. Maybe, she said. Dren looked at her for a long moment. You were going to sacrifice yourself. Back there. That was your plan if things went wrong. Yuna did not deny it. Dren shook his head. Humans are crazy. Yes, Yuna agreed. We are. The shuttle flew on through the darkness. 7 survivors out of 12. Heading home. Behind them, Station Keth was silent again. But this time, it was truly empty. Survival manual. The shuttle took 3 days to reach the academy. 3 days of silence and recovery. 3 days of thinking about what had happened and what it meant. When they landed on Station Helios 7, a crowd was waiting. Military officers, medical teams, teachers, other cadets. News had already spread about the attack on Relay Station Keth. Everyone wanted to know how 7 cadets had survived when 47 station crew had died. Commander Torvax was at the front of the crowd. His stone face showed something Yuna had never seen before. Concern, maybe even guilt. I sent you into danger, he said to the survivors. I told you it was just observation. I was wrong. Dren stepped forward. He was standing straight now, his fur clean, his wounds treated. But there was something different about him. Something softer. You were wrong about many things, Commander, Dren said. But not about one thing. You told us that combat is about understanding your enemy, watching them, learning them, finding their weakness. He turned and looked at Yuna. One of us understood that better than anyone. The crowd looked at Yuna. She wanted to step back. She wanted to disappear into the shadows, like she always did. But Hannah put a hand on her shoulder. Borum stood beside her. Then and Chris moved closer. She was not alone anymore. The investigation took 2 weeks. Every survivor was interviewed many times. They told the same story over and over. The attack, the darkness, the long hours of hiding and moving and fighting. And they all said the same thing. Una Park saved their lives. A notebook was taken as evidence. Officers read every page. They found years of observations, details about every species at the academy, weaknesses and strengths, tactics and strategies, things that were not taught in any class. This is remarkable, one admiral said. A complete manual for interspecies combat survival. It is more than that, Commander Torvax replied. It is how one human saw the galaxy, how she learned from everyone around her, how she turned knowledge into survival. The Academy asked for permission to copy the notebook. Una agreed, but only if her name was removed. She did not want fame. She just wanted to help. But her name could not be hidden for long. 6 months after the Keth incident, Una's notebook was published as a real book. The title was Practical Xenocombat, a Survival Manual. The author was listed as anonymous, but everyone knew who had written it. The book spread fast. Military academies across 17 star systems added it to their required reading. Soldiers carried copies into battle. Officers quoted from it in meetings. And at the bottom of the first page, there was a simple dedication for those who listen more than they speak. 3 years passed. Una graduated from the academy at the top of her class, not because of her fame, but because of her skills. She had learned how to fight now, how to lead, how to teach. Lieutenant Una Park stood at the front of a classroom, the same classroom where she had once sat in the back row, silent and ignored. Now she was the teacher. The room was full of new cadets, humans and aliens of all kinds, more humans than ever before. News of the Keth survivors had inspired many young people from Earth to join the academy. Welcome to Advanced Combat Theory, Una said. Her voice was still soft, but it carried easily through the room. She had learned to project without shouting. The cadets looked at her with wide eyes. They knew who she was. They had read her book. I know what you have heard about me, she continued. The silent cadet. The one who wrote the manual. The survivor of Keth. But I want to tell you something important. She walked to the side of the room and picked up a worn notebook. It was new with empty pages. She held it up for everyone to see. Everything I learned by watching, by listening, by respecting that every person has something to teach. The Velothi taught me patience. The Renari taught me speed. The Gorath taught me that strength means nothing without control. She looked at the human cadets. And humans? We taught the galaxy something too. The door opened and Lieutenant Commander Dren walked in. He was Una's co-teacher now. His fur was grayer than before, and he had a long scar on his left arm from a mission 2 years ago. But his eyes were warm. Why did humans teach the galaxy? Dren asked. It was a question they had practiced, a lesson they had planned. Una smiled. It was a small smile, like always, but real, that the quiet ones are always paying attention. The cadets laughed. Some of them wrote in their own notebooks. After class, Una walked through the station. It was evening cycle, and the lights were dimmed to look like sunset. She passed the food hall where Borm now worked as chief engineer. She passed the medical bay where Hana trained new doctors. She passed the memorial wall where the names of the 5 cadets who died at Keth were carved in stone. She stopped at the wall. She touched each name with her fingers. I remember you, she whispered. I will always remember you. At the bottom of the wall, there was a new plaque. It had been added last month. It showed a quote from the first page of her book. Survival is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is about understanding the world around you. Watch, listen, learn, and when the darkness comes, You will know what to do." Yuna looked at the quote for a long time. Then she pulled out her new notebook and wrote something down. Not survival instructions this time, just a reminder to herself. Keep watching. Keep listening. The galaxy still has more to teach. She closed the notebook and walked on. Behind her, through the window, 1,000 stars shone in the darkness. Each one was a world. Each world had people. Each person had a story. And somewhere out there, young cadets were reading her book, learning from her lessons, getting ready to face their own battles. The quiet human had found her voice, and the galaxy was listening.